Hey everybody, my name is Chris Baker. Thank you so much for your incredible response to my Spider-Man video last week. You definitely inspired me to do more of them, and I plan to make that start with this right now. I asked you guys on Twitter what you'd want me to talk about, and you basically wanted me to respond to you guys on your own theories and everything. So let's do that. First of all, Bryant Lamb here voices a concern that a lot of you voiced as well. He says, I don't like how slow the web slinging is in the demo. Hopefully we will be able to upgrade the swinging to make it go a little faster. Yeah, there's basically two things I think we should keep in mind right now. And Bryant, you nailed one of them. For one thing, it's really early in the game. I know everyone wants to compare this to Spider-Man 2. Go back and play Spider-Man 2 at the very beginning. You're not going to be that fast. You haven't upgraded yourself yet. You got to do that. This is really early on, and you just haven't gotten to where you're swinging fast yet. That is not to say that you can't swing faster than that in this demo. In fact, Insomniac has actually come out and said that if you're skilled, you can swing faster. And maybe even more importantly, with the mechanic like web swinging, you really have to feel it. You really have to play it to give it a fair shake. So wait till you do that. In the meantime, just have faith. Have faith in Insomniac. And if it turns out that everything sucks and my friend Brian lets us down, then, then you can complain. But he won't. I have faith. If you really want to dig into this issue, I highly recommend a video called Breaking Down Why Spider-Man PS4's Web Swinging Will Beat Spider-Man 2's by Evan Filarka. He takes a 25-minute view on the subject and compares it to other games. It's really great, and I highly recommend it. At this point, I actually think it's a lot more fun to think about what the actual game content might be as opposed to its gameplay. So Archwing has a pretty interesting question to that effect. Since Mr. Negative played a large role in the origin of anti-venom, do you think it might be possible for that symbiote to appear in this game? That would be a negative. Well, I guess it's possible, but I really don't expect to see anti-venom in this game. In case you didn't know, anti-venom is Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock had cancer and was not Venom for several years. Mac Gargan, otherwise known as the Scorpion, was. And when the good person who was Martin Lee touched Eddie Brock, it healed him. And then at one point, Eddie Brock was near Mac Gargan, and the symbiote, which had left Eddie because he had cancer and was no longer a good host, he saw Eddie again and he was like, oh, Eddie, you're all better. I'm going to make you anti-venom and you can heal people now. And more or less, that's basically what happened. So that's a lot of backstory right there in a universe that hasn't even established its Venom yet, hasn't established its Carnage yet, hasn't established its Scorpion yet. You know, maybe we'll see an anti-venom someday, but I really personally would love to see a really well done symbiote origin story in Spider-Man 2 or 3, not even this game. You know, plant the seeds, introduce us to Eddie Brock, introduce us to Cletus Cassidy. Kind of like how all three Sam Raimi Spider-Mans had Kurt Connors in them. If you were just watching that and you didn't know that Kurt Connors was a lizard, it was just like, oh, there's Pete's friend at the university. But if you're a fan, you're like, oh, that guy is going to be the lizard someday. Of course, that never actually happened in the Raimi movies, but the setup was there. And that's what I'd like to see in this game when it comes to characters like Venom and then maybe way on down the line, anti-venom. And while you're asking about anti-venom, you might as well be asking about all the other new characters that came around during the Brand New Day period as well. There's a lot of them, and I don't want to get into it all right here, but maybe that's the topic for another day. By far the most common fan theory that I saw in the comments was this one very succinctly put by Jason Heat. What if we get to use Miles while Pete is evil? Of course, he's referring to the fact that Peter is grabbed by Mr. Negative, which presumably will make him evil, because that's what Mr. Negative does to you. I really don't think that's going to happen, and Insomniac has more or less confirmed it in this tweet right here. What up, James Stevenson? This is definitely a Peter Parker story, but Miles plays a role in the story. So remember all that stuff I was saying about it'd be cool if we met Eddie Brock, it'd be cool if we met Cletus Cassidy? We're definitely meeting Miles, and I believe they're seeding us for possibly Miles becoming a Spider-Man in a future game, or just at least just a major character in this universe. Remember, this is a brand new universe and there are no rules. They're going to try to stay kind of in the general idea of stuff that's happened in the past, but they might blaze their own trail. There's tons of examples already of this happening in Spider-Man media. One that immediately springs to mind is that the cartoon from the 90s that we all love, where I'd gained a lot of my Spider-Man knowledge to begin with, is different in many ways, but it maintains the same themes. Spidey gets his black suit in an entirely different way, for one thing. The Hobgoblin's introduced before the Green Goblin is. That's kind of weird. There's no Gwen Stacy at all. But it's still great in its own way, and that's exactly what's going to happen with this game and its universe. But one thing I'm almost certain that will not happen is the death of Peter Parker. I do not see that happening in a video game. I do not see Miles Morales replacing Peter Parker at any point. He might become Spider-Man at some point, but he's not going to replace Peter Parker because he died. I just don't see that happening in a video game. But here's something that intrigued me through Insomniac's tweets and presumably some of their press meetings at E3. Peter is a scientist in this. Peter has been a scientist for quite a while in the comics, but traditionally, what is he? He's a photographer for the Daily Bugle. What's Miles doing right there? He's taking pictures. What if part of the way that Peter is presumably mentoring Miles at some point in this game is in his photography skills, and maybe you actually do play as Miles Morales and you've got to chase Spider-Man around to take good pictures for J. Jonah Jameson. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it'd be really cool. The fact that Miles is taking pictures in this one clip we see of him could be a very deliberate attempt at characterization. We'll see how that plays out. Now, this next one is really exciting to me because it might just answer one of my questions from my last video. Bacon Chicken 42, whose name makes me think of the chicken cow, a very obscure character who cameoed in the very obscure Web of Shadows Amazing Allies edition for PS2 and PSP. He says Empire Sanitation could be Empire Unlimited. Now, if you'll remember, I pointed out in the last video that there's a dumpster that seems to have a bit of a focus on it that says Empire Sanitation, and I wondered where that was from. Empire Unlimited is the company owned by Regent. Regent is a character who debuted in 2015 during the Secret Wars and just last year finally made his way into the proper Marvel universe. His whole thing is capturing superheroes and all superpowered beings, villain or hero, and taking their powers so that he can be the only superpowered person to protect the world. Of course, he sees this as a good thing, and the other superheroes like Spider-Man and Iron Man and even Miles Morales, they disagree and they take him on. Oh, and we can't forget Mary Jane, who dresses up as the Iron Spider to fight him when pretty much all the other superheroes are taken out of commission. Of course, we're talking about Empire Sanitation here and not Empire Unlimited, so there's no guarantee this actually is a reference. We'd know for sure this was an Easter egg if the logo that both Regent and his company use were on the dumpster, but they're not. So that's the only kind of thing that's making me doubt it. Also, I do not believe we will get Regent in this game, but I do believe that Empire Sanitation is a reference to Regent and Empire Unlimited. Good catch, Bacon Chicken 42. Before we get to the last comment, I wanted to point out an Easter egg that I missed that I first saw shown by the amazing Lucas, so props to Lucas. He has a great channel, go check it out. I was caught up looking ahead, which is what we'll talk about in a second, but if you look to the left there, you see a woman who could be Mary Jane Watson. Not only that, the slogan on the billboard actually says, "Get into the black," which I think we all know is probably a reference to the black costume. Probably nothing more than that, but pretty fun nonetheless. Anyway, Darth Skygamer points out that the sign actually says re-elect Osborn. So this isn't just Osborn running for mayor for the first time. He is the mayor right now. So what does that actually mean? Well, if you go back to the comics, he has served the government in law enforcement, ironically enough, as the leader of the Thunderbolts, which is basically the Suicide Squad of the Marvel Universe. And he also led the Dark Avengers as the Iron Patriot, and he led Hammer, which was sort of an offshoot of S.H.I.E.L.D. But he's never run for an elected position before. Besides, he's a rich businessman. Why would he possibly want to run for political office? Oh. Anyway, the fact that Norman Osborn has a publicly voted upon position right now, I think that actually helps substantiate my hope that the Green Goblin does not exist yet, and that we might actually get a Green Goblin origin story in this game, maybe the next game. I want to see that. And if we don't, I'll deal with it. Now, I have actually had some people come to me and say, it says Osborn. Maybe it's Harry Osborn that's running for mayor. Maybe, but we know now that Spider-Man is 23 years old. And I am going to assume that Harry being the best friend of Peter is one of the things they're going to stick to. Let's call him 25. Is he going to run for mayor at 25? Probably not. So I'm pretty sure it's Norman. So a lot of you asked me if I'd be willing to talk about the Spider-Man games that I worked on. And yeah, sure, as long as I'm not breaking any NDAs, I'm happy to share the kinds of things I did. In the meantime, just visit cbake.com and click on highlights. You'll see a lot of stuff there that I typed out about my time at Marvel. Anyway, tell me what you thought about today's video. Do you agree, disagree? I read every single comment, and I really appreciate every comment too. So thank you. Check out my book called Wrong, Retro Games. You messed up our comic book heroes if you like the way I talk about superhero video games. And check out these other videos too. They're somewhere around here. That's the way YouTube does it. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.